more, let's bring in Einar Tangen, Senior Fellow at the Taihe Institute and Chairman of Asia Narratives. Good to see you, Einar. Now, it's been 5 years after embarking on his last European tour. What are Xi's ultimate goals on this trip?
Well, it's kind of calm things down, renew bilateral ties with everybody. I mean, it's a situation where this year, China will grow literally 5 times as fast in terms of GDP versus Europe. Europe is concerned. There's a drift to the right. There are many issues out there, especially when it comes to trade, and he's there to say, look, China has been a partner, and how do we get through this? A lot of talk about, doing things about the EV industry, also the medical industry, because frankly, Europe is having a hard time competing.
The timing of each stop is symbolic too. 2024 marks the 60th anniversary of China and France's diplomatic relations, as well as the 75th anniversary of Beijing's diplomatic ties with Hungary. Can you talk a little bit about the historical significance of the China-Europe relationship?
Well, it's the oldest relationship. You talk about Marco Polo, Cardinal Ricci. I mean, there are a tremendous number of contacts that were done there. There was a lot of influence in terms of Europe on China. It wasn't always good. I mean, obviously, there were concessions that were made. There was interference in internal politics. But it's been, they got over that. It's been 60 years now. It's been a very beneficial relationship to both sides. And the question is, how do you get that back on track, given the kind of situation that Europe is facing? Higher inflation, literally double. Inflation is to be double what growth is this year. And, it's not something that China directly is involved in, but because China is so competitive these days in terms of, producing things like EVs, solar, things that are absolutely necessary for the energy transition. But when you have unemployment, domestic turns to the right, things like this, it's very difficult to manage the relationship.
The continent positions itself as a kind of pole between the United States and China trade-wise. Can you just talk about Europe's trade relationship with Beijing and what she hopes to achieve in these communications with leaders?
Well, I mean, the EU used to be a very large component, but it's been, in terms of trade, but it's been falling. What you have now is ASEAN is the largest trade partner with China. It's still growing at large rates, sometimes double-digit. But, U.S. and Europe have been trailing behind. But that's not something that Beijing wants to see, especially as it applies to Europe. Right now, there used to be, with Airbus and Siemens and a lot of the large companies, they were providing things that China could not. Now China is providing its own airplanes. It's still behind Airbus, but it is growing these industries. Obviously, there's some friction there. There's this idea that it would be nicer if Europe was the sole supplier of different things, and obviously there is competition. China has the ability to produce in mass quantities at lower prices, and apparently, because it's very consumer-driven, it's been very successful with consumers, especially during a time when money is tight. They're able to provide very high-quality goods that people want. So it's right now, it's how do you stabilize this relationship and put it into context in the midst of very difficult political times. Trump is looming. There are issues about how quickly Europe can transition to renewable energies to replace the damage done when the energy was cut off from Russia over the Ukraine situation.
All right. Einar Tangen, really appreciate your time.
Thank you, Sally.